I think a lot of Christians right now are having an identity crisis. On the one hand, there are Christians who are very sure what it means to do good works, and they find a lot of purpose and meaning in that, but they're not so sure about what it means to be in Christ. On the other hand, there are a lot of Christians who are very sure what it means to be in Christ, but they're not so sure what the purpose of that is. Like, they're not so sure how that's meant to produce good works in their lives. And when you untether life in Christ with the good works that life in Christ is meant to produce, you fall into an identity crisis. Like, if you're only given to good works, then you're going to be constantly striving and not resting in the good news of Jesus. But if you only understand the good news of Jesus and your identity in Him, but you kind of are lazy and not doing anything, then you're not experiencing the richness of what He's meant to be in your life, which is to change you and transform you and empower you to do good in this world. This is why we need to read Ephesians 2, verses 8 through 10, and have it really just be impressed upon our hearts. It says, "For by grace you've been saved through faith, and this is not your own doing, but is the gift of God. It's not by works, so that no one may boast. For we are His workmanship, created in Christ Jesus for good works that God prepared beforehand for us to walk in." Right? This is who we are. We are people who have been saved by grace. We are people who do nothing to contribute to our salvation. All that we have comes to us through who we are in Christ. When we place our faith in Jesus, God sees us as if we are Jesus. His righteous life covers over our sinful life. His death gets applied against our debt of death, and His resurrection becomes our resurrected life. We are saved through faith in Christ, not through works, not through anything that we do. Our identity does not come from our performance. Our identity comes through being united to Christ and His performance. This is the good news of the gospel. But the good news of the gospel is meant to have a transformative effect on our lives. Knowing who we are in Christ should lead us to then do what God has created us to do in Christ. We're not saved by our good works, but we are saved to do good works. It says that we're not saved by our works, but it says, but we are His workmanship, created for good works. Right? God saves us and gives us this identity in Christ so that we can go out and then do good works in His name. And so for the Christian, we are to do good in this world, not as some kind of virtue signaling like, hey, look at me and look how great I am. Look how much I'm aware of these social issues. No, we don't do it to kind of virtue signal. We do it because we believe that God is a God who heals brokenness. We believe that God's love is greater than any of this world's hate. We believe that where this world sows division, God brings reconciliation. And so as a Christian, we want to be part of bringing God's goodness and to this world. We want to be part of being salt, pushing back against the decay of this culture. We want to be light, pushing back against the darkness of evil. Like, we want to have an influence on the world around us through doing good to those who are around us. We should be devoted to good works. What is broken on your block? What is broken in your neighborhood? What is broken in your family? What is broken and needs even help in your church? Like, as Christians, we should be devoted to doing good. Wherever we are, the result of us being there should be, this place is a little bit better. Like, we should be devoted to acting and working and dreaming and praying to do good works. Not because we're trying to earn something, but because we have something. We have an identity in Christ. His performance has already been credited to our account. We are not virtue signaling as some kind of self-justification. No, we are resting on the justification of Jesus, that God has in Jesus Christ justified us. He sees us in Christ, and He sees us as perfect and holy and righteous, and He declares us justified, not because we did anything, but because Christ has taken care of everything. And so our identity in Jesus is meant to be so powerful. Receiving all that we have from God in the good news is meant to then produce good works in our lives. And so a Christian should be someone who's devoted to doing good. And someone who really wants to be devoted to doing good should be a Christian. It's the good news that empowers good works. These things can never be untethered from each other. If we only give ourselves to doing good works, then we're going to be constantly performing and never feeling like enough. But if we only just receive this good news, we're going to just be constantly receiving and never giving out what God intends us to do. I think of it like a sponge. Take a sponge and you soak it with water. And then what do you use that for? You clean a counter with it, right? We're a sponge, and receiving who we are in Christ, that's just meant to soak us and saturate us. But then as it soaks us and saturates us, it's then meant to be put to use in our lives. We're meant to spread that out to others. And so, friends, I hope that you believe the good news of Jesus. I hope that you've been united to him by faith, and you know all the riches that you have of being a child in God through your faith in Christ by grace. And then I hope that as you realize all that you have in Christ, that produces a desire to want to do good works for the honor, fame, and glory of his name. Believe the good news and be devoted to good works. That's who we are meant to be as Christians.